Well, hey there. It's been a little while since been down to the shop. I promise it hasn't just been that I've been trying to ignore you. It's just been I've been working on some updates for this video. So we did the ukulele build video part 1, where I kind of showed how to lay out some wood and how to glue it together and edge bind and all that. Well, now we're going to get to bending the sides. And I have a pretty big update for that. I've been working pretty tirelessly on trying to find an update that actually works. Not just for me, but for anybody that's trying to do this. So I'm going to kind of give you guys a walkthrough of what I found, how I found it, and how it works. And then we'll do some test projects. I'll kind of show you around on how it works. And then next video will be the actual bending of the sides of the ukulele. So I think this deserves a video of its own. You'll see why in a little bit, but it's pretty cool, I think. So tag along and we'll get the rest of this build started. All right, guys. So this is the steam bender. I've been working on this for the past few weeks, trying to come up with a solution that I think is relatively easy to do, is relatively cheap to buy into, and is a good way to test out whether or not you're interested in doing this. As you can see, this is a 200 watt light bulb inside of a tube, and the 200 watt bulb is heating up the tube. It heats it up to about 350 degrees. That's about the max that I can get out of it, which is enough to bend but not enough to scorch, which I kind of like because I'm brand new to this. But basically inside of this is just a light switch connected to an old ceramic light housing. Make sure that it's ceramic if you guys try to do this at home. Don't buy the plastic ones because you can actually scorch plastic. I can actually show you. This was the collet that goes around the ceramic fixture, and it started actually scorching it. Just burnt it straight to a crisp. I started noticing while I was doing my first tests of it that it was smoking, and realized soon thereafter why it was smoking, because it was actually burning the plastic. So let me show you what the inside of this looks like. I'm going to keep the orientation if I can. Might not fit around the bulb, it does not. Another thing to note, I'll show you this in just a second, is it gets so hot that it burns the wood in the inside. So on the inside of this, I just have a ceramic fixture wired to a dimmer switch. If you just follow the directions on the dimmer switch, you'll be able to do that. I am not a certified electrician, so don't be taking my advice for how to wire stuff. I just figured it out and did it, and that's that. But on the top of this, you got that black sheeting, and that is actually the same liner that they put inside of ovens, so it's temperature resistant. But even with that, it's starting to scorch my plywood. So I just have to keep an eye on that. Otherwise, you know, I could really cause some damage. So just a couple things to watch out for and be mindful for. If you guys have any ideas for preventative measures for the plywood itself, leave a comment down below, because I couldn't think of anything better than to use this oven lining and it does a pretty good job, but it doesn't do as good as I was hoping for. So if you got a better idea, leave it down below and I'll give it a shot. I'll be the first to admit I don't know everything I'm talking about here. So you get the bulb in there. You get your top on. And just use a quick little extender, screwed this down. Now the coolest thing about this is, if you guys do decide to build it and you like this idea, this is an old coffee can. This is an old Contigo coffee can. It's dishwasher safe and all this other nonsense. My wife buys these things from Costco for her drinks, and then once they start getting battered and bruised, she buys a new one. So I took the old one that she had and cut the rubber off of this, and then took a hacksaw and cut right there at that lip, right there where it connects to the actual rubber. And that's what this is, minus the color. So all I did was sanded off all of the paint that was on this, or all of the paint that I could get access to at least, including the top. And I did it on my lathe because I've got my lathe. And then I used a cutting wheel to cut these little tabs, flared the tabs out, drilled a hole in them, and then that is what goes on your piece. So as you can see, it kind of all lines up, and you just take your, I like to push down just a little bit, lay it flat. I don't know why, but it just does seem to make a difference. Not a huge one, but it does make a difference. As soon as I get this on, I'll show you guys what it does. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it on. And as you can see, this was actually on an accident. I actually had planned on doing an L bracket to hold this in place, and I wanted to rivet it, but the rivets just didn't do what I was hoping for. So I scratched that idea and used the tab idea. And actually, to be honest with you, I'm a bigger fan of the tabs than I thought I was going to be. They do a good job. So, you know, I'm happy about that. I guess the only thing that I would say to suggest is I kind of like the pilot hole idea. Like if you do this and you flare out the tabs like this, the only thing that I would probably do is put a little hole somewhere towards the bottom, and that's already starting to get warm, and take, just so that you can look and see that the light's on and off. I mean, just for a safety measure, you can tell at a glance whether or not you're heating up or not. And that's just a really big deal, honestly. Like just being able to tell whether or not you're ready to go or not. And whenever you leave and to go wrap up for the day, you can tell at a glance whether or not it's actually, you know, had enough time or is powered off. I unplug it, even though I can tell it's powered off. I unplug it. What I'm doing here, guys, by the way, kind of in the background. So I've just got a test piece of walnut. This is what I tested on while I was making sure that it actually worked before I did this video. And I'm just spritzing it with water. Let the water soak in for a little bit while this thing gets up to temperature. And just as an idea, see if I can get this in the camera. Right now it's at 155, 165. And the top is thicker, 182 degrees. So we've still got a little ways to go before it gets hot enough, but it's already starting to show signs that it will be hot soon. Give it another 5 minutes. We'll circle back. Alright guys, been about 5 minutes, and right now I'm at about 200 degrees that on this side, but on this side it's just a little bit closer to the light bulb, and it's about 280 degrees. The top is 283 degrees. Yeah, there we go, 273 degrees. So we're pretty close to that. I think we're good enough to start showing you guys what you do with it, how it works, etc. So I got my wet piece of walnut. It's already got a little bit of a bend in it where I was testing it. And all you got to do is push just ever so gently. It's already, it's thin stock wood. This is for bending on guitar sides and instrument sides. So you already have a little bit of thinness and flexibility to it. And already, guys, look at that. It just bends really fast. One thing that I have noticed just from doing it a few times is it actually helps to kind of retain it in the shape that you got it in while it dries. So I'm going to hold it like this because that's about perfect where I want it. And I don't plan on actually using this as a final piece, but I will show you here in a minute. Just what you can do with it. And I mean, it's pretty hot. It's literally steaming the water right off of this. And if you're not careful with it, guys, you can burn the wood. But this is my ukulele template, and as you can tell, I'm shooting for the hip. So I still got a little ways to go before that hip really does open up on me. What I'm going to do is just kind of spend some quality time on that back. And I think that's got it. So now, and that is perfect. Now you got to be careful. I don't know if you can tell. Yes, you can. Right there. In the discoloration, see that? That's my previous test. So I let it get too hot in one area, and I let it stay there for too long. So you can't be sitting it. If you let it sit in one spot, it's going to just continue to scorch and scorch and scorch and scorch. You got to be careful not to turn that into a scorched piece. So the way to do that is to constantly rock. So you're moving your hands back and forth on the piece, and make sure that your wood is nice and damp before you start bending. So now, just for kicks, I've got this soaking in its water. You don't need a ton of water. You don't need to get it drenched. 268, I'm good to go. And I would say right about here is where this curve starts. And you want to try to keep your hands parallel. And you want to kind of, you'll feel, from what I can tell so far, you can kind of feel if it's going to give you grief, where it's giving you that grief, and what to do about it, if that makes any sense. So, and I have already got it. Now, keep in mind, this is the inside of that bottom bout, right? So you got the upper bout, the bottom bout, and the waist, right? So it's okay that that's scorching a little bit. Now you still want to try to keep it wet because it's going to help keep that wood soft. Because think about it, if this is getting hot and I'm providing pressure to bend it, there's all that steam is going inside the pores of this wood, just making it softer and softer. And what you're taking advantage of is that heat. Don't burn the crap out of your hands. Right now, this spot right here is giving me grief. It just doesn't want to bend. So, I'm going to give it a little bit more loving with my sprayer. I'll spray the backside. I'm going to let it sit and think for a minute. But, as you can tell, it's slowly starting to take shape. And it's not a fast process. You don't want to rush it. You really, really don't want to rush it. You just want to... I'm not putting maybe but 15 pounds of pressure, if that. There we go. And I'm just going to start... going like that. Now, take your positive blank, keep hold of it. And honestly, guys, if I just push, that meets. So now, I can, this is not my side piece. It's not long enough to be my side piece. But I'm using this as an opportunity personally to learn how to shape this and how the wood reacts against the burner. And I'm learning a ton. There's a feel to it. I'm going to turn this off now because I don't need it to keep on getting hot for right now. But there's a feel to it that when you're pushing up against it, you got to kind of maintain, like, I don't know if you saw me switching hand positions, but you got to kind of maintain this even, because it's thin wood, so it's going to want to twist on you and do all sorts of weird stuff. And you've got to kind of maintain this even, kind of gentle pressure, and you can feel and see. I couldn't give you a very good angle. But there are spots where it's just straighter than others, like right here. It just didn't want to bend. So you got to kind of take advantage of that and really work that specific area back and forth. And then if you need to, push a solid pressure right in one specific area until it starts to give way. It will give way, but you've got to give it that attention. And as you can tell, I mean, not the straightest in the world, but that's what your other jigs are going to be for. So you get it close, and just keep in mind that this is not quite as thin as it needs to be. This is about, here actually these are the actual sides. I milled them long to be able to mess up on them and still have plenty of room. Because I didn't know what I was getting into still yet. I mean, I have made one ukulele, but that one, in my opinion, was kind of luck. So now I have to do it to prove myself that I can do it. So these are the two outsides, and all I would do is the exact same process as what I just did here, except I would move that hip inwards to about here so that I had plenty of room for my hip, plenty of room for my upper and lower, and then I'm good to go. And then once you get it bent and to the shape that you like, then you take something like this, which I made out of plywood and MDF, and the rubber bands are just to hold on the top and the bottoms. But you put your body inside of this, and as you can see, it actually probably would have fit pretty well. And I bet you I could probably fit that. If I got these rubber bands out of the way, I probably could fit that. And all I would have to do is bend this one corner, and that'd be a ukulele. I mean, it's got some work to go right there, but you just slowly but surely bend that to its shape, and then you got yourself a final product. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think there's ways to go before it's done, but I need to work on this form some because there's a little bit of misalignment that I'm not happy with, but it's getting the job done, so I can't complain too loudly. But yeah, that's what. Here, I'm going to take you off the stand. Hopefully this isn't too bad of a... That's the final product. The dimmer. So the dimmer was supposed to be to turn up and down the temperature of this light bulb, because as it's brighter it's going to get hotter, and as it's more dim it's going to be not quite as hot. But honestly, at full blast it gets about 280 degrees, and the goal from the research I've done is like 450. So this isn't even as hot as it needs to be, and for me it's plenty hot. Like it gets the job done. I'm not scorching my wood. It's a slower process, and I don't know how it's going to work for harder woods like rosewood, but we'll find out, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, then back to the drawing board. But anyway, guys, stay tuned for the outro, and thanks for watching. Bye.